Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1275. A New Journey. Bornova Gustav. Klein's gaze swept across the young man's face, landing on the floating items and the mannequin made from metallic components. The mannequins have a postmodern style. Some of the physical laws here seem to have changed a little. Klein nodded in thought. I want to take the mirror. He very honestly stated his request. Bornova's expression didn't change, as though he was just a puppet. You're a blessed of Evernight? I guess so, Klein said with a smile. Bornova nodded. Then take it away. He's of the impression that I'm asking for the spoils of war for the Church of Evernight? Klein didn't explain as he politely took off his hat and bowed slightly. Thank you very much. As he spoke, Klein's figure suddenly faded and vanished. He had only come in the form of a historical void projection. Following that, in the carriage where Cancer and the machinery hive mind member were, nothing happened. Of course, they were only situated in a historical scene, and the actual situation in the car had been covered up without their knowledge. On a carriage more than 10 kilometers away, a mirror suddenly appeared in Klein's hand. It was silver in color, and the patterns on its back were ancient and mysterious. On both sides was an eye-like ornament. Don't speak. Klein looked into the mirror and gave a simple instruction. Yes, Supreme Master. Silver words surfaced from the depths of the mirror. Klein immediately took out a pen and paper and used the magic mirror as a backing to write. He thought for a moment and wrote with a faint smile. Dear Mr. Azek, it seems like I haven't written to you for a long time, as I went to the forsaken land of the gods and had a wonderful journey. There are only 2 types of living creatures there. They are either living sentient creatures or monsters. Those sentient beings either bear a curse or have obvious physical mutations. They're even more tragic than I imagined. I tried helping them. This wasn't only for the ritual, for my anchors, or to satisfy my sympathetic heart. It holds meaning on its own. Putting aside the suffering, the situation in the forsaken land of the gods is completely different from the outside world. It's like an oil painting with a black theme. What's surprising is that artificial death can influence the undying creatures there. I was very confused back then, but today, I finally had a guess. I suspect that this is related to the River of Eternal Darkness, one of the 9 Sphirot. This reminds me of Caldero and City in the spirit world. I'm reminded of the golden phoenix accessory you mentioned before. Rumor has it that the phoenix ancestor, Death of the 4th Epoch, could use the River of Eternal Darkness to a certain extent. I wonder if you know anything about this? The war that lasted for more than a year has finally ended. The Evernight goddess clinched victory in the end, and the god of combat has perished. I believe that, with your level and status, you should know what this means. No matter what, the long-awaited peace has finally arrived. People are gradually returning to their normal lives. This is a scene that I like to see, but some wounds may never heal. I don't know if the apocalypse will arrive on time, and I don't know when you'll wake up. I can only hope that everything's heading in the right direction. Finally, let me mention something trivial. I've already advanced to Sequence 2 and am now a miracle invoker. This is both a curse and hope. I wish you well. Your eternal student Klein Moretti. After he finished writing, Klein examined it carefully before folding the letter. He blew Azek's copper whistle and summoned the bone messenger. When the gigantic messenger emerged from the ground, its bones trembled as though it had sensed the aura of the great ruler above the spirit world. Klein chuckled softly and handed the letter to the messenger whose number was unknown. He watched it clumsily bow before disintegrating into a fountain and burrowing into the ground. After doing this, Klein cast his gaze at the magic mirror on his thigh. Sensing his gaze, the aqueous light on the surface of the mirror rippled and produced silver words. Great Master, where are we going next? Where to next? Klein repeated the question inwardly. He really wanted to teleport to the main peak of the Hornacis mountain range and enter the ancient palace that bordered reality and Foggy Town. He wanted to see if he had the chance to take away the most useful card of blasphemy from the Antigonus family's half-fool. With his present strength being equivalent to half a sequence 1, this wasn't an impossible task. Back when Zeratul was a sequence 2, he had managed to obtain the main ingredient of Attendant of Mysteries from the half-fool. Of course, the premise was that the Evernight goddess maintained the suppression and seal of the Antigonus family's ancestor. Hence, he had gone full circle, circling back to a deal with the Evernight goddess. The present me is the owner of Sapphira Castle. I can split a portion of the worms of spirit to stay above the gray fog, constantly responding to any prayers. This way, apart from having certain latent problems to my mental state, I'll gain quite a bit of benefits in other aspects. Yes, I can help my main body at any time, giving me another resurrection method. Even if my main body is completely destroyed, with the worms of spirit above the gray fog, I can still reassemble my will and body. However, if I were to walk in the real world and get concealed, and also end up having my connection with Sapphira Castle severed, the worms of spirit left in Sapphira Castle will lose control and turn into monsters, just like Zeratul from back then. Klein quickly analyzed the situation. With his current strength, he felt that it was best if he didn't venture deep into Caldero End City for the time being. Even if he were to search for clues regarding the River of Eternal Darkness, he would have to fulfill many wishes and obtain the true strength of a miracle invoker. With this in mind, Klein patted the mirror and said with a smile, "Next, let's go wander together. Where do you want to go?" Trier, "No, you can go wherever you want," Rhodes replied humbly. Klein smiled and jumped off the carriage, heading towards the city closest to him. After the carriage continued for several meters, it disappeared inch by inch and returned to the fog of history. At the same time, Klein's trench coat turned into a black robe. His top hat changed in shape, giving off a classic vibe. This made Klein feel like a wandering magician walking through the streets and alleys. In a rather intact house in Backland, dressed in holy white robes, the beautiful demoness of unaging, Katerina, put down the mirror in her hand and turned her head to the young man who was rocking in a reclining chair. "The war is over. They finally decided to summon me back to headquarters. I've been waiting for this day for too long." The young man sitting on a reclining chair scoffed. He was wearing a long black robe with red patterns. He had a pale white brown-skinned face with a soft outline. He was the gatekeeper possessed by the Red Angel evil spirit. Katerina pressed down on the table with both hands and sat on it. The corners of her lips curled up as she said, "You don't seem testy at all. When you get locked underground with two detestable fellows for nearly 2,000 years without being able to escape, you'll know that 2 years of waiting is extremely easy and relaxing. I'm not in a rush at all," the Red Angel evil spirit said with a chuckle. "After this matter ends, I'll let you experience it. Of course, I'll remember to throw you 2 male companions. As for how long you can last, it's up to you to decide if you can hold yourself back." As he said this, the Red Angel evil spirit's 2 cheeks didn't reveal any retorting mouths. This was because to them, this was the truth. They and 2 other detestable fellows had been locked underground for nearly 2,000 years without any means of escape. Upon hearing this answer, Katerina's eyes darted around as she asked with a faint smile, "Aren't you worried that Primordial would learn of this once you head to our headquarters?" "So what? There's always a need to take risks in doing things. Furthermore, the worst outcome is to fuse with her. I'm already 3 in 1, so becoming 4 in 1 isn't a problem," Sauron Einhorn Medici said with a nonchalant attitude. "Let's set off." Katerina hopped off the table with a smile. Just as she finished speaking, a red-haired man with a trademark imprint on his forehead was reflected in her eyes. The gatekeeper, who wore a black, red-patterned robe, stopped breathing. His skin and flesh rapidly rotted, turning into yellow-green pus. In just a few seconds there was only a white skeleton and a Beyonder characteristic left on the reclining chair. Katerina waved her hand, pulling the Beyonder characteristic over by using invisible threads. It fell into her palm. Immediately after, she lost all corporealness and suddenly entered the mirror she had used before. A dark and illusory path that appeared surreal presented itself in front of the Saintess of White. It formed a complicated and mysterious web, with similar objects in her surroundings, interweaving into a strange world that was different from reality. Katerina quickly traversed the mirror world and approached the target node. At that moment, she felt a powerful suction force. She couldn't help but deviate from the path and cast a dark and blurry fog. It represented a mirror in the real world. In an instant, Katerina, along with the Red Angel evil spirit, left the mirror and came to an unfamiliar room covered in carpets. At the edge of the room, a young man with ordinary facial features who was dressed in common clothes leaned against the staircase railings and smiled at the demoness of white. His left hand was constantly tossing an item, a strange crown covered in rust and blood. Before Katerina could react, the young man took out a crystal monocle and put it on his left eye. Heh! The Red Angel evil spirit's sneer echoed in Katerina's mind. The next second, the young man took off the monocle and shifted it to his right eye before saying with a smile, "Sorry, I wore it in the wrong spot."